Let's bring in Dana Perino, co-host of American Newsroom, obviously the five. The entire speech, though, to that point that Brian was making, was a carrot and stick approach. Praise, punch, praise, punch. Until the end of the speech, it was about peace.
Yeah. It's such a remarkable day, and it's unusual that we get to have joyous news. And so I'm honored to share it together with you, because for the last 2 years, I felt like Fox News Channel has been such a stalwart supporter of Israel and of getting the hostages back and for standing for what is right. So I loved hearing the speech today. But even before the speech, when Netanyahu and others were giving remarks, he was so patient, like willing to sit there. And I was thinking about a lesson that I learned from President Bush towards the end of the administration. He was talking about a time when a friend of his had gone through a hard time and nobody wanted to talk to this friend anymore. And everybody was shunning this friend. And he said, you know, those are the days that you call your friend and you show up for your friend. And what President Trump was saying is that Israel, you can't have enemies all around the world. Like, I'm with you, but you have to do better. The world is big. On the rest of the stage. But what did President Trump do? And is it convenient to fly all the way there? No, but he showed up for his friends today in order to celebrate, but also to say, all right, we still have more work to do. I thought it was just such an emotional, personal speech for him. There was some joy, but also there's strength. And I would say also that I admire that he said, America is strong. I know people don't like to be America is the policeman of the world. I'm totally fine with that, because he stood for what is right. And he said, we don't have to police it. The Israelis did so much to get us to this point, militarily, through their intel and through their diplomacy, to get all of those countries, like Brian was talking about, all the ones that were so happy that Iran's nuclear program was set back, if not maybe demolished. And now you have a new generation. I think this is another thing that's really important. You're talking about the old ways of diplomacy. It takes a while for generations to change over. Now you have younger leadership in all of these Middle Eastern countries, and they're saying, we want something different. We'd like to have concerts. We'd like to have business. We'd like to have jobs. We'd actually like to go on a date. We'd like to do all of those things. They can't do that until there's a new wave. So the chances for this to take hold and be successful are much higher than ever since you and I've been together covering these things.
It was striking. Bibi mentioned the fact that everything changed overnight when President Trump got elected.
It was one of the first things he said.
And then President Trump took it a step further and actually name-checked his predecessors, Biden and Obama. And I was surprised by the applause. That was a big applause line. Right.
And I think even if you look at the media in Israel, like the front covers, you see the banners. The people know exactly what happened there. Interesting on the pardon request. It's bold to do that. Okay, obviously he's a bold person, but his words carry weight. And internal Israeli politics are like, ours are terrible. Theirs are much, much worse, and they fight like cats and dogs. But this might be a moment where they say, maybe he's right.
Yeah. You know what I've thought about for such a time as this? Because if you take away, yes, Donald Trump was created to do this. He's a great deal maker. We've seen he's creating all of this peace in the Middle East that we haven't seen probably in our lifetime, but or at least, and we hope it holds. But I was also thinking biblically, I mean, this is the Holy Land, and Donald Trump didn't win the last election. He won this one for such a time as this. I believe that God's the only one that can see the future. So he knew Donald Trump almost died. God spared his life for such a time as this. There's so much symbolism here. That's not lost on us?
I think so, but also think about the hostages, right? So the ones that we see today, the 20 of them, obviously there's joy in their faces as they're reunited with their families, what they have gone through, and they were tested. And they come out of it on the other side in a way to be able to tell us the story and to do what President Trump said. He said, never forget and never again. And, you know, we said never forget, never again, and we meant it. We haven't had a major terrorist attack on our soil again, but there still is this ideological struggle. Even yesterday, Hamas was lining up Palestinians and going after them. So the enemy is still out there, but there is this chance. And I think also that President Trump invited Netanyahu to make sure that he was invited to the meeting. And I don't know how that ever ended up. I know that
Jewish holiday.
Netanyahu was going to go, and then he wasn't, but that he was invited. And President Trump knows how to convene a meeting. The other thing that he did, I think it's really remarkable, is his choice of personnel and his willingness to give them the rope to run to do what they need to do. So he had extended remarks about Steve Witkoff and also Jared Kushner. I listened to his speech on Saturday night at the rally, and he was very personally affected by October 7th. I had never heard him express that. He's very reticent to maybe share that publicly. But without Jared Kushner, I don't know if it actually gets done. And I didn't know they had to meet face-to-face with Hamas in order to get it done. So all of these details are coming out, and Fox is going to cover it all day. And we'll have more. General Keane will be on America's Newsroom as this next phase takes place.
Dana, before you go, we wanted you to watch this powerful moment from earlier this morning as President Trump speaks to some of the hostage families who were reunited with their loved ones. Let's listen.
Along with my friends, which were all murdered. One of them, Tamil is still held. His body is still held in Gaza. Later on, I was taken captive for 498 days, leaving my wife with just 2 girls up to then. She was pregnant in the bomb shelter for the whole period of time. What I thought is that they were all murdered as well. She later on gave birth, and I got my life back, thanks to you and your staff. I came back here, met my baby girl when she was already 14 months old. And now life is full.
So one of the things that President Trump does over and over again, it could be here in America too, with people that have been through a lot of hardship or heartache, he listens. And he internalizes those stories, and he'll never forget them, right? He doesn't have to take notes. He listens in a way that allows him to internalize that and then turn it into either direction or leadership based on principles that America is unique. America is the one who can help here. And if we can help, we will help. But you also have to be willing to help yourselves. The Israelis have proven that from the hostages, their strength. The entire country of Israel, who every day felt like they had something caught in their throat because they could be having a nice day, but they knew those hostages were just across the border, under the rubble, in the dungeons, and they came out to be here today. I'll mention one other thing. Keith Siegel was one of the hostages released last February, and he was held with a much younger guy, and he was so worried about him. And every time he came on America's Newsroom, that's all he wanted to focus on was, please, Mr. Trump, can we get him back? And this morning, our producer sent us the photograph of I can't remember his name, the young man that was released, having a FaceTime call with Keith Siegel. And it was an amazing, beautiful moment. So I'm honored to be here with you guys today.
As Steve Harrigan said earlier, in a lot of ways, it's almost harder having living hostages. It's almost harder than actually losing somebody because every day it never ends. You don't know.
The other thing is that there were a lot of women who were taken on that day. Yeah. And there are no women survivors that were released today. There were also horrible sexual crimes committed against both men and women throughout this ordeal. And I know that we will never forget, but I think that President Trump saying never again is the impetus to try to get these next phases solidified and executed properly.
Indeed.
Thanks, Dana Perino, so good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'll see you in a couple, what Hemmer would say in 22 minutes.
Stick with us. Let's bring in former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor KT McFarland. KT, great to have you with us this morning. Just step back and give us your overall thoughts right now at this historic moment.
This is all because Donald Trump made a decision the first week of his first term to back a younger generation of Arab leaders. We were in the White House Situation Room and faced a choice, the older generation or the younger ones. The younger ones promised peace, prosperity, peace with Israel, and President Trump took a risk and he backed them. And so they trusted him. And now 8 years later, those were the people who then helped President Trump get over the line. It was the Arabs in the Middle East. And then when President Trump unleashed Israel to destroy Iran. And today, Hamas is isolated and alone. No financial backers, no political backers, no diplomatic backers. And even more so, Hamas is now separated from the Palestinian people, because what President Trump is likely to talk about in a few minutes is the future. What happens in the future in Gaza? Without Hamas, Gaza will be rebuilt. It's going to be rebuilt and protected and invested in by the countries in the region, but frankly, by the whole world. Hamas is a liability to everybody now. So I think that the prospects of future peace and prosperity in the Middle East are extraordinary. The Middle East could become one of the most important parts of the world as a conduit for trade and peace and prosperity and technology that goes from Europe all the way through to India.
You know, KT, this is a foreign policy that has been underestimated. You remember in the first term, you were there, and he created the video for Kim Jong-un. And the video was what your future could be like. Well, he created a similar video for these Arab and Muslim leaders. And they took the economic prosperity. And that was the pretext for this entire deal. He has fundamentally changed foreign policy, right?
Yeah, and you know, the problem with the Middle East is that nobody trusts anybody. But President Trump, 8 years ago, won the trust of those young generation of Arab leaders. He won the trust of the Israeli leaders. He's won everybody's trust. And as a result, they were willing to take the risk on peace. And their future now looks very bright. The Abraham Accords finished at the first term, as the first term of President Trump finished. That has brought extraordinary peace and prosperity to Israel and the countries that signed it. So the rest of the countries in the region look at that and say, this is what peace, this is the prospect of peace. We could have peace and prosperity. Saudi Arabia looks at that and says, we could be a technology leader in the world. The other countries in the region say, you know something? What has 70 years of war gotten us? Nothing. Maybe there's a different track to take. And because of Donald Trump's just dogged determination and a series of careful steps, one after another, it's brought us to this day that, you know, looks like a miracle. It was a miracle that was man-made, and I think so much, and almost all of the credit goes to Donald Trump personally.
Yeah, KT, we're looking at these excerpts from the speech, and this one is just so beautiful. After so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace. A holy land. It's biblical, but also when you look at this room right here, KT, and you know all of these individuals have just seen war firsthand, lost loved ones, had loved ones tortured while they were being held captive. They've been through so much, and today they're learning those hostages are home and it's over.
You just can't even find the words. It's just such an extraordinary achievement of humankind. And an investment in a belief in hope and peace and prosperity for people that haven't known it for decades, for generations. And again, brought by the absolute dogged determination and brilliant decisions over the last 8 years of one man, and that's Donald J. Trump.
And a reminder that President Trump negotiated with both sides and held a hard line with both sides. Also in the speech, he says, Israel has won all that can be won by force of arms. Now it is time to translate those victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East.
This is so much bigger than just the Gaza peace plan. It's the entire region is now going to, as President Trump said when he was in Saudi Arabia in the first visit of his second term, these are people who are ready to trade commerce for chaos and technology for terrorism. They're all looking to the future and the prosperity and the peace, which they can hardly imagine it because they've only known death and destruction and terrorism and uncertainty for decades. And the thought that they're going to come to this promised land of peace and prosperity, it's bringing tears to all of their eyes.
KT, we're going to get your reaction to something, but just for our audience, we're standing by waiting for the president to address the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. Because we're in Israel, most of what's being said right now is in Hebrew, but the moment the president speaks, we'll bring that to you live. KT, I want to go to phase 2 of this plan because we don't want to get ahead of